Next, we have closing remarks. I'm very excited to bring this very rich and full day to a close here pretty soon before we move on to the career fair and the networking opportunities with the speakers. So I am pleased to turn the stage over to Melody Ivory, who's a Fempreneur disruptor and founder of Thrivafy. She is also the first Black woman to earn a computer science PhD from UC Berkeley. Melody will tell us about sustainable disruption and what to do when ensuring an inclusive HCI future is not enough. So I'll turn that over to Melody.
Thank you so much, Camille. I just want to make sure everybody can hear me. If not, let me know. I am so excited to close out this phenomenal day at focusing on inclusive HCI. And I want to tell you, HCI is very near and dear to my heart because when I was a graduate student at Berkeley, I used to spend all my time in a computer lab basically with machines that look like this, if you can see my screen. These were like networks of workstations, which is the precursor to what we call cloud computing. And the rooms were cold and I had hundreds of computers around me, and that's all I had around me was computers. And one day I looked up and I said to myself, where are the people? There's no people in computer science. And so I started to really look around for where in computer science do they deal with people? And that's when I discovered that HCI is the only computer science discipline, at least it was then. I'm not sure if that's still true now, but it was the only discipline that actually involved people. And so I switched majors, switched advisors, and essentially started over in grad school to explore human-computer interaction. And fast forward to today, what I didn't know then that I know now is I didn't anticipate that technology, on the one hand, is very, very beneficial, very good. And on the other hand, it can lead to quite a bit of harm. And this is something I've been studying in the last year or so. For instance, I did a study in early 2020 where I was asking US-based web users on their unaided recall about tech harm. And so I've taken one of those narratives to share with you. This narrative comes from a Black woman like myself who happens to be someone who is in tech, but also talking about her experience of being a tech user. And if we look at the narrative, some of the things that she talks about experiencing that are leading to her feeling like tech is more harm than good or neutral is she's talking about the pain of being on dating apps and being discriminated against, being harassed or trolled or attacked on social media, physical and mental harm that is happening. And that certainly wasn't what I had in mind when I went into human-computer interaction or tech overall, and I'm sure that's not on other people's intentions either in HCI. But at the same time, it means that some of these things we actually contribute to as HCI practitioners and researchers. The good news is that means we can also contribute toward the solution to these harms. And in that one narrative, what she's talking about is she's named actually 6 of the 7 tech harm categories that we look at, from physical and psychological harm to social and societal issues. She talked about racism and not being treated the same way on her tech job and the experience that she's having with using technology. And these categories come together into what we've compiled as the whole alphabet of tech harm, where every single letter in the alphabet is represented among these 63 issues, threats, and outcomes. And I chose this particular narrative because today we're focusing on inclusive HCI. And what I want to point out is if we think about just the inclusion issue, that's just one of these issues. There's still a lot of issues that she's raising. Even if we expand it to diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we've talked about earlier today, here again, that's only a couple of these harms that are covered. Because I want you to see that just focusing on inclusion in HCI, it's not going to solve all of the issues. It's important, but I think it's more table stakes than being really exhaustive when it comes to the tech harm. And actually in this narrative, the woman outlined 10 different tech harms that she's experienced as a worker and a user. So this alphabet of tech harm is a way and a language for us to begin to talk about what are all the ways in which technology is causing issues, threats, outcomes, and that are amplified, caused, or enabled by the tech products, services, our interfaces, the organizations, and the industry overall. So we need to keep that in mind as we're developing these solutions. And what that gets back to is understanding the first two letters of HCI, which is human and computer. We have a human, we have a computer. And on the one hand, how we are bringing these two together is a relationship that we are creating. So we could focus on collaboration and symbiosis. There's been talks about this earlier today about how that's hard. But when we do that, we elevate tech wellness. We create more tech harmony versus when we start trying to embed and merge and replace and reproduce and otherwise dehumanize people is where a lot of this tech harm is emerging from. When we don't think through, one of the ways that I think about HCI now is I've come to understand HCI as really being not just architecting the interface, but it's really architecting the relationship that humans have with computers and vice versa. And I invite you to take on this thought that HCI is really, the work is about HCR, our human-computer relationship. And I'm just going to share a quick video for Thrivafy and how we're thinking about sustainable disruption and keeping in mind the human-computer relationship that we're trying to architect here. And then I'll come back and wrap up.
There you go.
If you're a tech consumer,
Yes.
you probably love technology. And that's good. We love technology too. But you also likely have some concerns about algorithmic bias, social media addiction, cyberbullying, disinformation, security, and your safety. On the other hand, if you're a tech builder, you may want to move fast and break things. You may want to be the first to market, to dominate your category. But are you really willing to harm others in the process? Are you willing to bend to competitive pressure to meet tech's status quo? Thrivafy's Sustainable Disruption Framework is designed to help you make the right choice. It provides you with a 6-step plan to help you refocus, evaluate, block, engineer, look for, and solve tech harm. Preemptively and proactively, it establishes empathy and authority with tech harm stories, statistics, and testimonials from over 400 US-based web users. It creates greater tech harmony for us all. And that's oh so good for your bottom line and your reputation. Say yes to tech wellness. Make the right choice today with Thrivafy's Sustainable Disruption Framework and build a better tomorrow. Thrivafy.com. Elevate tech wellness.
And I apologize for that if you didn't hear the audio. But essentially what I'm trying to outline in this video on the sustainable disruption is being mindful about disrupting technologically without harming people, the planet, or the profits. And in our view, we believe that freedom from tech harm should be a right, not a privilege. And that's something that takes intention to be able to deliver on that. And that's why, in our framework, we start with really looking at how we are approaching delivering technology in the first place. And most importantly, assessing potential tech harm up front before we even build and working to mitigate that before we build versus going straight into building technology. And if we go back to the narrative, one of the things that the users also pointed out was how to solve some of the tech harm that they're experiencing. And in this case, when we look at what this woman is saying, she's saying over and over again to listen. And that was also the subject and message that was in the keynote, the fireside chat this morning, was about listening to users. And as HCI researchers and practitioners, this is something we do very well. And we just need to make sure we're not only listening to certain people, but we're listening to all the people. And that's what inclusive HCI is about. So just to wrap up here, this same alphabet of tech harm is also one that can lead to tech harmony. When we focus on these different issues up front and try to mitigate them, understanding that in HCI, we are also architecting the human-computer relationship between the humans and the computers. And when we have the lens of let's figure out how not to break things and then move fast versus the opposite direction of how it happens in the tech industry most of the time. And so beyond, for me, inclusive HCI is table stakes. And if we're trying to, we have to have it. We need to empower the people that we are including. And if we think back to that narrative that I just outlined, a couple of things to keep in mind as I wrap up is, there's opportunities for even greater radical transparency. We're starting that on the privacy front, but privacy is just one of the tech harms. If we could do this on all the tech harms, what about tech harm labels for our applications and our solutions to be clear about what we're mitigating, what we're not mitigating? Are there ways for us as we're architecting interfaces and interactions, experiences, to try to shield humans better from tech harm or self-healing experiences? Like, can our experiences adapt when we notice things are going wrong and behave differently to try to prevent these harms? And lastly, as we're going into looking at careers and jobs, are we choosing places where we can have this social impact at work and do the right things and making decisions about, is this a place where I want to take my talents and skills to be part of the solution versus the problem? So I just want to leave you with one last thought is, in my work, what drives me is this understanding that liberating the least among us elevates us all the most. And I think this is truly where HCI matters and where we can do a better job of liberating all the users, not just some of the users. So I'll leave you with that. And thank you so much for listening and being a part of Elevating Tech Wellness. And I'll be around for the Q&A. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Melody. That was really a terrific way to round out a very exciting day and very full day. A lot of wonderful ideas, wonderful speakers, and important considerations for all of us moving forward. I want to welcome some of the students and others who might have joined us just now for the career fair. So before we move on to the next section, and I'll give you some instructions about how to do that, I really just want to thank everyone for joining us. Again, a year ago was about the last time that we were all together in person, and today was really a tremendous accomplishment, I would say. And I want to thank all of our supporters, the sponsors of the event today. That includes Lamb Research, Facebook, UC Office of the President, Sandia National Labs, Fortinet, and our fellow UC organizations that made the event possible. Most importantly, as any of you who have participated in producing an event like this, whether offline or online, a tremendous number of people went into making everything run smoothly. And so I really want to congratulate and thank our Citrus staff members, especially Lori and Ravneet, Kat, Adriel, Nathan, Kozrov, and a special shout out to Dan Chapman for designing and producing the beautiful Athena Awards. I want to thank our students. They will be also very involved in the next couple of hours of the career fair. That's Rachel, Vivian, Aaron, and Seke, Kara, Catherine, and Catherine. and our mighty team of volunteers. And finally, a huge congratulations and a big thank you to Women in Tech Initiative Director Jill Finlayson and the entire planning committee. We had really wonderful participation from all 4 campuses, Berkeley, Merced, Santa Cruz, and Davis, as you saw in the various panels. So it was a real team effort, and we appreciate everyone's commitment and participation.